Well, hey, it's Brandon. Alright, I'll go ahead and discuss the elephant in the room here. Recently, I've been trying these new tactics to improve my everyday life and keep me from acknowledging my many flaws so I don't have to fix them. On top of changing my perspective, I've also removed my cerebellum so I'll never walk in a straight line again, captured 65 birds, and hired a foreigner to make all my decisions for me. It's been an interesting week and a half, but it's all thanks to this instruction guide I found at Goodwill. Kinda wish I connected the dots before I interpreted what it meant by blast. The Sega Genesis, a video game console made for the sole reason of taking Nintendo down a peg after they've been dominating the gaming market while also having little to no competition doing so. The thing was released back in 1989 to the entire world except everywhere in the world that's not North America. Other countries got it a year later in 1990 and Japan a year before back in 1988. But not only did it come out, people bought it too. It was fucking wild back then. And my god, Nintendo's and mainly Mario's ass was getting kicked. Everyone loved the Sega Genesis for a multitude of reasons. Faster processor, better graphics, more complex and visually appealing games. All the while their best competition was the NES. Yeah, the SNES came out 2 years after the Genesis as a fast response to their slipping crown, and from there the rest is ongoing history. But there is more to a console than just power. We also got that game library. Basically, a lot of the success is determined by what titles could be played and how good they actually are, and while Sega was doing well enough with what they had to get Nintendo to start putting up a fight, things exploded in their favor when they decided they needed a new mascot for their company. Many ideas were thrown around as potential contenders, such as a rabbit and Mustache Man pajamas, eventually landing on a Hedgehog character. Fast forward through all the designing and programming, and boom, Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis released on June 23rd, 1991. Do you really need to know this? He's cool, he runs fast, what more could you want? You even have multiple different terrains to do said act in until you reach the end. This concept was so novel at the time. Sure, going through levels was nothing new, and was kinda Mario's whole shtick, but now you could do it faster, with better graphics and music, while still being fun. Once that iconic character design was unleashed to the public, it exploded in popularity. So much so to a point where people might have believed Sega could be the new face of video games from that point onward. Regardless, people were crazy for this shit. If you had this thing, you had this other thing. It was law. And when there's success, there's a sequel, which is what they made like a year later and ended up being just as popular, if not more. So they did it again. Then again. Then they started mixing them together. It was getting kinda weird. For a moment though, audiences just couldn't get enough. But unfortunately for Sega, time does move forward, and over said time, people want to see video game franchises do something new. And when 5 years have passed since the first Sonic game, more competition like the PlayStation are starting to evolve gaming, and your pinball reskin just isn't cutting it, it may be time to begin making some upgrades. Sonic 3D Blast was their answer to this problem that was very real and people definitely cared about at the time. Yeah, that's right, I said 3D. Sonic's about to learn the power of the Z-axis before he even leaves his debut console. If you for some reason thought Sonic Adventure was the Hedgehog's first game in the third dimension, you're an idiot, because it was actually Sonic Labyrinth for the Game Gear. But soon after, we got Sonic 3D Blast, or Sonic 3D Flicky's Island if you live in Japan or Europe and hate semi-decent titling. The game was released on November 7th, 1996, which was pretty late into the Genesis's lifespan, and programmed by a British studio called Traveller's Tales. Yeah, Sega didn't exactly make this game all by themselves. They requested aid from those assholes in the UK because everyone else was too busy working on another title called Nights into Dreams for their newest console at the time, the Sega Saturn. However, before anybody and myself go blaming Traveller's Tales for whatever I may or may not experience, it's also important to note that Sega was the one who gave them the basic concept, meaning all that Traveller's Tales had to do was program it and maybe make a few executive decisions in areas that lack guidance. So in light of this, I'm holding both companies accountable if I don't make it through this in a sane, sound mind state. Alright, anyways, starting this up, in the first moments of launching the game we get the iconic Sega intro. You know, Sega! That one. Except now, they directed that. Afterwards, our eyes get blessed with this. A horribly compressed animation that screams, "You can't say we didn't try." Title screen itself doesn't look half bad, however, actually gives off a bit of competence. Oh, look at that, they didn't implement save files even though the previous Sonic game before had them. This is my punishment for calling the British assholes. You press start and it's straight into the action. Oh, but don't worry, we still got sound tests so we can listen to the music we'll probably never get to hear during the actual game. Glad to see we're really optimizing for the modern era here, real nice. So, once we accomplish the mentally draining task of pushing start one more time, we get story. Wow, I don't care, skip. And now grass. A Sonic tradition by this point. Green Grove, as it's called, is the first zone we're dropped into, and oh my god, what is this fucking perspective? Oh no, wait, what are these fucking controls? Better yet, what is actually happening right now? So it's been 3 minutes since I started playing, and I'm already lost. I can't find the end of the stage. There's this ring here, I can hang on it. What does this mean? Was there something I was supposed to read before? Was there any clues to how I actually beat this? I just don't get it. What? Well, you fucking idiot, if you're looking for hints on how to progress, maybe you should watch that intro story you skipped. Fine, but if I don't find anything useful, I'm gonna kill you for wasting my time. Alright, I'm still talking to myself. Oh wow, look at that. According to these words, the birds you rescue from robots can travel across dimensions, and Eggman wants to capture them. That's the basic gist. So, hopping back into the game and... Yep, that's a robot. Yep, a bird came out of it. However, now instead of watching them hop away, you actually have to collect them. In total, there's 5 per area, which are almost always inside badniks. And once all have been acquired, run to that big ring, dunk the birds into it, and boom, next section of the act will open up. Repeat the process 1 or 2 more times, and that's how you complete an act. 1 act. A single act. Out of 2 acts per zone. There are 7 zones in total. Hope you like escort missions. But aside from that, let's look at all the other gameplay decisions that were definitely made by people. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. First off, as you can see, we no longer have the 2D perspective. Instead, everything is angled from an isometric viewpoint. Obviously, the reason for this is to make a 3D game work to where you can still see everything without utilizing actual 3D assets or rotating a camera. Still don't like it, but it's manageable until you do this thing. The controls themselves. They just feel very loose and uncomfortable. The best way to describe it is almost like constantly reminding Sonic what direction he's supposed to be going in, and dealing with that on top of this angle can only be described as or under any synonym of the word painful. And now here, I would be inclined to say something along the lines of, at least those are the only issues I have. But no, there's more. Look at this. See that? That's me, attempting to land on anything, be it an item box, an enemy, or sometimes even just the ground. I can never really tell where I am relative to anything else. Sure, there's shadows under a lot of things, but they're kinda hard to see sometimes, and also I don't even know where those are relative to anything else. Oh, and since we're on the topic of flaws in the visual department, I want to talk about these birds. So like I said before, you need to collect these tiny bastards to actually progress, which is very cool and nice, simple enough to understand. However, what if I told you upon doing this task, it'll suck? I have many complaints with the way these things were implemented as a game mechanic. First off, they're small and hard to see on screen. It's mainly only a problem if you ever lose track of one, since there's no beacon or tracker for them. And saying that would be reassuring if it didn't happen constantly. Which leads me to issue number 2. Upon collecting a flicky, they'll start to trail behind you. The more you collect, the longer the line is. That's not the bad part. The bad part is when you get hit. Just like how your rings scatter, the birds will too. And now because of that, you gotta look for them again, you fucking idiot. You know, those tiny bits of 4 pixels. Luckily, however, in a small attempt to keep the player sane, some do make their way back towards you on their own. But some is the best you're gonna get. The rest, on the other hand, either try to go further from you or bounce back and forth in a pattern that's stupid and bullshit, and I don't like this. Also, did I forget to mention that Sonic doesn't even need to be hit for them to scatter? Even if some type of obstacle grazes not you, but the immensely vulnerable line of cocktails behind you, then there they go. Is it frustrating? Only if you can pick up on context clues. Last gameplay topic I have to discuss is about the moves we have at our disposal. First one being the iconic spin dash. You hold B for a bit, let go, and you'll go flying. It's surprisingly somewhat helpful. I might even be willing to say I like the way it was implemented, as I can actually still aim myself even in spin dash form, making it easier to line up a shot. And the other one is this bounce. You know, I'm not actually sure what this is for, but I can sure do it. So, now that the basic game has been fully conversed about, it's time to utilize them in actual levels. We have 7 zones in total, each split into 3 different acts, with the first 2 being standard levels and the third one a boss fight. I'm just gonna go through each one in order cause it feels more natural. Starting off, we have the previously mentioned Green Grove Zone, which is another one of those Green Hill clones, as they're called, and that's pretty much all it has going for it. Rusty Ruin is up next. A nice ancient ruin theme, really good music, and this mechanic. Yeah, definitely one of the better zones in terms of memorability and enjoyment if you somehow forget the boss fight is shit. After that is Spring Stadium. The name makes me assume the theme is supposed to be springs, so why the 80s diner aesthetic? Other than that, not too bad, but very easy to get lost in. The one after that is Diamond Dust. Another one of those ice levels, and oh boy, this doesn't make things worse. Only notable thing here are the snowy rivers you have to pass through sometimes, and this ice cube mechanic from Sonic 3. To counteract the previous area, we have Volcano Valley. This place can be unfair as all hell. These flamethrowers are placed everywhere, the jumps can be hard to make. God help you if you just so happen to lose any flickies here. My advice, grab a flame shield and make sure you don't lose it. The 6th zone is Gene Gadget. If that's not how it's pronounced, I empathize with you for saying it the right way. Takes place in space, the areas are connected through these tubes, there's fans and lasers, and I fucking hate this thing. At the end of it all is Panic Puppet Zone. Panic? Yes. Puppet? Actually, the way to beat the first 2 acts is different from the rest of the game, strangely enough. Act 1 consists of you rescuing the birds trapped in these cylinder containers instead of robots, while Act 2 just has you reaching the end of the stage, classic Sonic style. And once you do clear those 2, you'll be greeted with the final boss, which basically just consists of fighting 3 identical Eggman mechs one at a time that are all taken down the exact same way, but have slightly different attack patterns. You know, just really feeling the creativity with this one. Hell, I would really only call the last phase an actual challenge as well, and by challenge I mean it's just a bunch of random bullshit that's trying to give off the illusion of a challenge. Like, in what way is this dodgeable? But yeah, you beat it, man, story, and credits. Was I having fun? Yeah, that question's irrelevant, cause we're not done yet. Apparently, the Chaos Emeralds are in this game, and my ass was actually supposed to collect all 7 to get the good ending. He says as if he cares. But I can't really call this game fully completed until I go back and get them. So, in Sonic 3D Blast, the way to find these things require you to look for either Tails or Knuckles, who are hiding somewhere in the level. Give them 50 rings and you can access the special stage. Yep, Sonic's friends are in possession of the Chaos Emeralds this time, and you gotta give those greedy bastards money if you want to save the world. The special stages themselves are actually really straightforward and so much easier than the main trilogies. You run forward past 3 checkpoints with each one requiring a specific amount of rings to pass. Collect those as you go and don't get hit by bombs. Really not that bad. It's kind of a nice change of pace from what is quite literally torture encoded. Now here's the real question. What happens when you do beat the game with all 7 emeralds acquired? Well, you impatient prick, once beating it again, you'll be greeted with a new final boss fight in space. All the battle really consists of, though, is 10 different attacks you need to avoid in a row, with only 6 rings to your name. After every one, he'll move forward, and that will be your chance to attack. Pretty easy stuff. I only died maybe twice to this before eventually beating it, and boom! Look at that, the true ending. Everything is great, the birds are safe, peace is restored, they didn't implement Supersonic, god damn it. Yeah, no, you can't replay the game again as Supersonic like you could with Sonic 2, 3, and Knuckles, which was this game's only chance at replayability. Congratulations, you're now just a one-hit wonder to people who almost don't hate themselves. So, Sonic 3D Blast, a title that could definitely be defined as experimental. And yes, I realize that the version for the Sega Saturn is overall better in terms of visual quality, but that's not the one they decided to re-release on compilations, now is it? It was obvious Traveler's Tales were struggling to figure out how to make a Sonic play like himself with this new perspective, which resulted in the biggest takeaway I had from experiencing 10 hours of blasting in 3D. This is just not a Sonic game. But Brandon, you fucking idiot, he's right there. Yeah, I know, but come on, you can't tell me if you replace everything Sonic theme with something original, but keep the same gameplay, it would still feel like a Sonic game. You rarely even go fast. It was honestly all I could think about when I wasn't dreaming of having a gun in my hand. There's so many little oddities packed in here as well, like why does this robot look so stupid? Are these ones referencing the Chaotix? What does this Sonic Head collectible do? I genuinely never managed to figure it out. Why are birds traveling through dimensions a thing, and why is it never brought up again? Who approved the European box art? Why do my rings vanish the moment I lose them? That's bullshit. Why can't I tell if I'm having fun with this? Oh, also, I just want to mention that this game should only be played with one of these. See, the Genesis controller had this weird thing where the D-pad was actually good, being equipped with more than 4 directions, which makes stuff like moving much easier to pull off. Trust me on this one, I 100%ed 3D Blast twice. Once with the Genesis controller, and once with this standard plus sign shit. And the difference in how much I wanted to break something was vastly different. So, to brief my opinion on Sonic 3D Blast, did I have fun playing? It was kinda back and forth. Was I finding it to be frustrating with lots of unfair bullshit? Yes. Now, is this a bad game? I personally wouldn't consider it one, no, and I definitely wouldn't say it's unworthy of being Sonic's first 3D title, especially if you forget Sonic Labyrinth existed like I have. Before I quit talking about this game and forget its existence entirely, I do want to mention something interesting I found. Apparently, the founder of Traveler's Tales and head programmer of Sonic 3D Blast himself, John Burton, created and designed a sort of director's cut a few years back in 2017, basically updating the entire game to include refined controls, visual improvements, actual save files, a functioning Supersonic. I'm pretty sure the music has been revamped, and there was even a level editor implemented. No idea how it works, but it's pretty cool, especially given the age of the source material. That's not even everything that's been improved, and it already sounds leagues better than before. The only problem is, now I have to somehow convince myself to play through the entirety of Sonic 3D Blast for a third time to experience any of this. I mean, sure, this could very well act as the comeback for Sonic 3D Blast and what it was fully intended to realize, and by not playing it, I'd just be undermining all the hard work that was put into this official definitive version of the game. Yeah, having the moral high ground isn't convincing enough for me.